Hey everyone, welcome back. It's great to have you with us as always for another deep dive.
I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, this one is super interesting. We're talking grassroots innovation today.
Very cool.
So, sometimes you just feel like bombarded with information from every direction,
Right,
right?
yeah.
You want to learn something in depth, but who has time to read, a whole library's worth of stuff?
Right.
So that's what we're trying to do with these deep dives is kind of cut through the noise and give you like a really focused look at a specific topic. And today we're tackling this fascinating idea of grassroots innovation. And when I say that, I'm not talking about, fancy labs or high-tech startups. I'm talking about real ingenuity that comes from everyday people facing challenges in their own lives.
That's right. It's sort of bottom-up innovation, isn't it?
Totally bottom up. And, we're using a great book summary as our guide for this. It's called Grassroots Innovation, Minds on the Margin Are Not Marginal Minds by Adil K. Gupta. And it's like this amazing window into how creativity can flourish, anywhere. And it really challenges this notion that you need some sort of, elite status or a fancy degree to be an innovator.
And often these people don't even realize they're innovators, right?
Exactly. And that's what makes it so cool. And our goal today is to like really unpack what makes grassroots innovation tick. Why is it so important? How does it empower communities? How does it connect to things like sustainability and social change?
All very, very important stuff.
Huge. And we'll even touch on this intriguing idea from the book summary about why single girls in India might in some ways be more innovative than married women.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, a real head scratcher, right? So let's get into it. What exactly are we talking about when we say grassroots innovation?
Well, at its most basic, it's about regular people, right? Regular people who are facing problems in their daily lives, and they're coming up with clever, sometimes really ingenious ways to solve them.
So practical solutions to practical problems.
Exactly. And what's interesting is that they often don't see these solutions as anything extraordinary. They're just fixing something that's broken or making something work better.
You're just getting things done.
Yeah, exactly. The book summary talks about the importance of noticing what they call oddities. Those little things that are a bit off or could be improved, and that's often where the spark of innovation comes from.
I like that, noticing the oddities.
Yeah, and it really emphasizes that anyone can be an innovator. You don't need a special background or a ton of resources. It's about that drive to solve a problem.
And the book summary actually starts with this really powerful story that illustrates this point. It's about some research that was done in Maharashtra in 2008 looking at the issue of farmer suicides.
Oh, yeah. Tragic.
Really tragic. And one thing that researchers noticed was this lack of local non-chemical solutions being used to deal with pest infestations. The farmers were trapped in this cycle of buying expensive pesticides that often didn't even work.
And that was leading to huge debt and desperation.
Right. And it turns out that knowledge of, traditional or alternative pest control methods did exist elsewhere, but it wasn't reaching these farmers.
Yeah, there was this disconnect. And for the author, it raised this ethical dilemma because he was learning all this valuable information from these communities, but the people who were sharing their knowledge weren't actually benefiting from it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And that's really what led to the creation of the Honeybee Network.
The Honeybee Network.
Yeah, it's this incredible example of social entrepreneurship in action.
I love that name, the Honeybee Network. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, so the idea comes from the way honeybees collect nectar from flowers, right?
Okay.
They take what they need, but in the process, they pollinate the flowers, so the flowers actually benefit too.
So it's mutually beneficial.
Exactly, and that's the principle behind the Honeybee Network. They collect these grassroots innovations and share them widely, but they always give full credit to the original innovators.
That's so important.
It builds trust and encourages more people to participate, and what's really cool is that they also share back their interpretations and analyses of these innovations with the communities where they originated from.
So it's this constant exchange of knowledge and ideas.
Precisely.
I love that. And the summary also mentions these shodhyatra. What are those?
Yes, Shodhyatra, it literally means knowledge journey, and it's basically a walking tour through villages and rural areas specifically to find and learn about these local innovations.
So they're going right to the source.
Exactly. It started with researchers going out to these communities, but then the farmers themselves wanted to join in, and it became this amazing way to connect people and ideas.
And it wasn't just about researchers, extracting information from these communities, right?
No, not at all. In fact, there's this key moment described in the summary that took place in the Hundergar in 1980 where they observed this really democratic interaction between farmers and scientists.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was a genuine two-way exchange of knowledge and perspectives, and it really laid the foundation for the Honeybee Network's inclusive approach, valuing local wisdom as much as scientific expertise.
That's so powerful. And it also makes me think about how when a local innovation gets recognized by the outside world, it must give it this huge boost within the community itself.
Oh, absolutely. It's like external validation reinforces local ingenuity.
Totally. And it seems like the Honeybee Network has this really broad reach, too. The summary mentions a Leadership for Social Change course in the Himalayas for students at IIM Ahmedabad.
Yeah, it just goes to show, that the principles of grassroots innovation can be applied in so many different contexts.
Right. It's not just about, rural communities. It's about a way of thinking, a way of approaching problems.
Exactly. And it's about empowering people to create their own solutions.
And to make that happen, you need more than just a collection of ideas. You need a whole ecosystem to support these innovators.
Absolutely. And that's where organizations like Christie Giant and the National Innovation Fund come in.
Yeah, what can you tell us about those?
So Christie was founded in 1993, and it really became the backbone of the Honeybee Network, focusing on education, technology institutions, and culture, all the things you need to nurture these grassroots innovations.
And Giant came a little bit later.
Yeah, in 1997, and its specific aim was to connect innovators with investors and entrepreneurs, to create pathways for these local solutions to have a wider impact.
So bridging that gap between, the grassroots and the more formal economy.
Exactly. And then you have the National Innovation Fund, which was created in 1999 to actually provide financial support for grassroots innovations and to help them get commercialized.
That's amazing. And I love that the summary mentions how even former presidents of India have been involved in these annual exhibitions and award ceremonies for grassroots innovators.
Yeah, it's like giving them this national platform and recognition.
And there was even this scholar in residence program started by Shrupana Mukherjee to create a community among these innovators.
Yeah, fostering collaboration and the sharing of ideas.
I love that. And to really make this whole idea of grassroots innovation tangible, I think we need a concrete example. And the story of Melisham and the Puchambali series from the book summary is just so powerful.
Oh, it's a fantastic example.
Can you tell us a bit about that?
So Malisham witnessed his mother and other women in his community suffering from this incredibly painful and time-consuming process of winding thread for these traditional Pochampali sarayes.
Yeah, it sounds like it was really taking a toll on them.
It was. They were spending hours and hours doing this manual work, and it was causing all sorts of musculoskeletal problems.
And Malisham, seeing this, was determined to find a solution.
Exactly. He wanted to ease his mother's suffering, and he basically embarked on this 7-year journey to automate this process.
Wow.
He moved to Hyderabad to work, and in his free time, he just tinkered and experimented until he finally created this machine called the ASU machine.
And it had a huge impact, right?
Oh, it was transformative. It reduced the winding time from like 5 hours to just 1.5 hours.
Wow.
It was incredible, and it freed up so much time for these women, and he actually went on to win a National Biennial Grassroots Innovation Award for his invention.
That's amazing. And it really shows, how a personal motivation can lead to this widespread positive change.
Absolutely, and it's a perfect example of adapting technology to meet a specific local need.
Right. And the summary also talks about these different learning styles in innovation, like learning from within and learning from peers. Can you explain what those mean?
Yeah, so learning from within is about that inner drive that you have, that belief in your idea, even when you face obstacles or you don't have a lot of resources.
So it's like that internal fire that keeps you going.
Exactly. The book summary gives the example of Mansbai Patel, who spent years trying to develop a cotton stripping machine despite facing setbacks and limited resources.
Wow. So it's really about perseverance.
Yeah, and then learning from peers is more about being inspired and motivated by others in your field, setting a high bar and constantly striving to improve.
So it's like a community of excellence.
Exactly. And the book summary gives this great example of potters in West Bengal who display their best terracotta horses to inspire each other and especially to encourage the younger generation.
So it's like friendly competition, but also collaboration.
Exactly, pushing each other to be better.
I like that. And it seems like this whole idea of grassroots innovation really challenges some of our assumptions about where innovation comes from. Like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, for example.
Right. Maslow's theory suggests that you need to fulfill your basic needs before you can move on to things like creativity and self-actualization. But the book summary presents all these examples of people who are innovating despite facing significant hardship.
So it's like innovation can be a driving force for meeting those basic needs.
Exactly, and it really highlights that human ingenuity can thrive even in the most difficult circumstances.
So inspiring. And the summary also talks about this challenge of overcoming inertia. That resistance to change that we all face sometimes.
Yeah, it's this feeling that one person can't make a difference or that things will never change.
So how do grassroots innovators overcome that?
Well, firstly, they show through their actions that individual efforts do matter. They're living proof that change is possible. And secondly, they often come at problems from a completely different perspective, what the summary calls inverting the frame of reference.
Oh, that's interesting. Can you give us an example of that?
Yeah, so in the Bastar region, they have these different burial practices for people who die from sickness versus those who die of natural causes.
Oh, wow.
And the reason is that they don't want to return a diseased body to Mother Earth.
Oh, interesting.
It shows this deep respect for the environment, and it's like a completely different way of looking at death and burial.
That's fascinating. And it reminds me of the story of Chaya and her inclined water pipe with taps at different heights. She created that after participating in a Christie competition.
Exactly, and it's a great example of how a specific context can spark a really innovative solution.
And I think another thing that helps these innovators overcome inertia is that they're often driven by this really strong emotional connection to the problem they're trying to solve.
Oh, absolutely. Like Kemjibai, who invented the panihari to ease the burden of carrying water on the head. She saw the women in her village struggling and she was determined to help.
Yeah, that empathy is so powerful.
It is, and it often fuels incredible innovation. But even with all this ingenuity and drive, the summary points out this major challenge, which is the gap in knowledge transfer.
Oh, yeah. What do you mean by that?
So we live in a world where information can travel globally in an instant, but so often that knowledge doesn't reach the people who could benefit from it the most.
So it's like this disconnect between global knowledge and local needs.
Exactly. And the summary highlights how our education systems often don't do a great job of fostering that out-of-the-box thinking or valuing local knowledge.
Yeah, we need to be doing more to encourage kids to be creative and to think about solutions to real-world problems.
Absolutely. And the summary talks about how idea competitions can be a great way to do that, giving young people a platform to showcase their ideas and to get feedback.
And it mentioned this cool example of Mayank Wolia, who created this device that combines a scanner with text-to-speech software.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's like assistive technology that can help people who have difficulty reading.
So simple, but so brilliant, and it really shows how young minds can come up with these incredibly innovative solutions.
They can. And, the author of the book summary has learned a lot from his journey into the world of grassroots innovation. And he shares some key takeaways in the summary.
Oh, yeah. What are those?
So, firstly, he says that we should never underestimate the potential of individuals and their ideas.
That's so true.
It is. And secondly, he says that execution is key. It's not enough to have a good idea. You have to be able to make it happen.
And that often takes a lot of grit and determination.
It does. And thirdly, he says that you don't always need formal approval from institutions to create something impactful.
So it's about taking initiative.
Exactly. And the summary also emphasizes this synergy between practical knowledge and theoretical understanding. It's not just about knowing how to do something. It's also about understanding why it works.
And I think a lot of grassroots innovators are motivated by something more than just personal gain.
Oh, absolutely. Many of them are driven by this desire to share their knowledge and to help their communities, like Dharampir Kamboj, who teaches essential oil extraction and jam and jelly making in tribal regions.
So it's about empowering others.
Exactly. And it really highlights the importance of social entrepreneurship.
And it all starts with passion, right?
Passion is definitely key, but it needs to be channeled into action. And that's where organizations like the Honeybee Network come in. They provide that platform for innovators to connect and to share their ideas.
So it's like passion plus a support system.
Exactly. And another important trait is humility, being willing to learn from your mistakes and to adapt to challenges.
And not being afraid to start small.
Right. Even simple solutions can have a big impact. And the book summary gives the example of the wheel-based weeders that were developed in Mahendragarh.
Yeah, and sometimes those simple solutions are the most effective.
They can be. And the summary also highlights the importance of traditional knowledge, that wisdom that's been passed down through generations.
And it gives us a great example of Jodi, who won a biodiversity competition in the Uriku Valley because of her deep knowledge of local plants.
Yeah, and she learned all that from her grandparents. It's like this incredible intergenerational transfer of knowledge.
So valuable. And it makes me think about how our modern consumer culture sometimes makes us forget about these simpler, more sustainable solutions.
Oh, for sure. Like the example in the summary about the shift from iron cookware to nonstick pans.
Yeah, and how that might be contributing to iron deficiencies.
Right. It's like we've lost touch with some of that traditional wisdom.
And even at the national level, Policymakers have recognized the power of frugality. The summary mentions Lal Bahadur Shastri's appeal for people to forgo grains 1 day a week during food shortages.
Yeah, it's like collective action driven by resourcefulness.
And that's something we see a lot in grassroots innovation, this amazing ability to repurpose materials and to make the most of what they have.
Over 90% of the innovations in the Honeybee Network database use secondhand components.
That's amazing. And the example they give about using aircraft tires in camel carts after a crash in Rajasthan is just brilliant.
It is. It's like turning waste into opportunity.
But the summary cautions against this narrow view of frugality that's just focused on cost.
Right, true frugality is about sustainability and thinking about the long-term impact of our choices.
And it suggests that platforms like Instructables could be a great way to share these green and frugal DIY innovations.
Absolutely. It's about encouraging that kind of creative problem solving. And now let's talk about the ethical and social capital that underpins a lot of this grassroots innovation.
Yeah, the Honeybee Network has built this incredible wealth of knowledge based on people's creativity.
It has, and it's all rooted in this idea of reciprocity and community, people sharing their ideas and their knowledge freely.
And it's about trust, right?
Trust is huge, and the summary talks about how high ethical capital reduces the need for external regulation.
So communities policing themselves.
In a way, yeah, like the example they give about farmers choosing not to use electric fences to protect wildlife.
Yeah, it's like they're making decisions that benefit the whole community, not just themselves.
Exactly, and that's how social and ethical capital is built through these shared experiences and collective action.
And the summary points out that this process isn't always easy. There can be conflict and disagreement.
Of course, but the goal is to make decisions that benefit everyone in the long run.
And they give the example of communities working together to protect indigenous animal breeds.
Yeah, it's about preserving that biodiversity for future generations.
And this whole idea of intellectual property takes on a really interesting dimension in the context of grassroots innovation.
It does. The summary basically argues that intellectual property is a form of collective societal knowledge.
So it's not just about individual ownership.
Right. It's about recognizing that knowledge is built on the contributions of many people.
And the Honeybee Network tries to strike a balance between protecting individual innovators and sharing knowledge for the greater good.
Exactly. They have this open innovation model where they encourage people to share their ideas, but they also recognize the need to protect intellectual property rights.
So it's about finding that middle ground.
It is. And so to wrap up, the author of the book summary has learned some really valuable lessons from his journey, and he shares them with us in the summary.
Okay, what are some of the key takeaways?
Well, he says that we should always be on the lookout for unmet needs because that's where opportunities for innovation lie.
Like those oddities we were talking about earlier.
Exactly. And he also emphasizes the importance of encouraging all grassroots ideas, even the ones that might seem a little bit crazy at first.
So not judging too quickly.
Right. And he talks about how the willingness to share knowledge without expecting anything in return is actually a sign of a highly efficient system.
So it's not all about competition.
No, it's about collaboration and mutual benefit. And he also points out that we often undervalue simple, effective solutions. We tend to think that more complex is always better.
And that's not always the case.
Definitely not. And he highlights the importance of bridging the gap between formal and informal knowledge systems, bringing together the scientists and the farmers, the academics and the practitioners.
So it's about valuing all forms of knowledge.
Absolutely. And he also talks about the need to streamline the process for recognizing and validating grassroots innovations, making it easier for these innovators to get the support they need.
And he stresses the importance of nurturing the next generation of innovators.
Yeah, getting young people involved and excited about solving problems.
So important. And he encourages us to move beyond temporary fixes and to really focus on addressing the root causes of problems.
So not just patching things up, but finding lasting solutions.
Exactly. And finally, he reminds us that it's crucial to give back to the communities that provide this incredible wealth of knowledge. So it's about creating a truly inclusive ecosystem of innovation.
Precisely one that values creativity, collaboration, and empathy.
I love that. So the message here is that innovation isn't just something that happens in labs or universities. It's happening all around us in communities everywhere.
And it's driven by this desire to make things better, to solve problems, and to create a more just and sustainable world.
And it all starts with paying attention to those oddities, those little things that could be improved, those unmet needs that spark our creativity.
And it's about believing that one person can make a difference.
So for all of you listening out there, think about the challenges you see in your own communities. Think about the things that could be done better, and don't be afraid to get creative.
You never know, your idea might just spark the next big grassroots innovation.
That's right, and thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the fascinating world of grassroots innovation.
It was a pleasure being here.
Yeah, this was a great conversation.
It was.
Until next time.
See you later. Bye.